Hello, it's Carmen with Cherished Legacies and the Well Chronicled Life. And today we're talking about love and legacies. We will be doing this content later in the week live, and afterwards you can ask questions and have a chance to win storage. And we have two more of those planned for September and October this year. Love to have you join us. So just let me know and we can get you a link. And so let's get started. This first photo is from my wedding. The middle one is my son in a wedding of a friend, and the bottom is my mom at her wedding. So no matter what story you want to tell, it could be your own, it could be family members, or it could be a friend. Hopefully by the end of tonight, you'll be inspired to preserve someone's love story. So let's get started with why. So this is photos from my brother and sister-in-law's wedding. And so I think there's for me, two really big reasons of why to preserve the love story. And this is one of my favorite things to do. And the first is because let's face it, all marriages have challenges. And there's times that we need to remember why. Why we fell in love, why we were first got married, and all those things. So I think it's important to document that so we don't forget. And secondly, I have loved learning more about my grandparents and their love story and their wedding and my parents. And I know that future generations will love to hear about uh, my story. And they may not now, and a lot of people are like, my kids don't care, and maybe they don't seem like they do now, but in the future, they will um, delight in learning about your love story. So for this, I use Forever Storage. You will be able to get some tips for whatever you're going to store your story in, but the reason I love Forever Storage is the permanence. The organization is probably my absolute favorite thing because I tell my story in the storage, and the way that I can organize and tell the story is absolutely phenomenal. I love that it's easy to share with the easy little share button, and I can share as much or as little as I want. I love the peace of mind, and I trust it to tell my story. So we're going to start with a photo tip, which I've gotten great feedback on this, sharing these. So as you can see, I'm just going to talk briefly about portrait mode. The top picture is a regular taken on my cell phone with a regular photo mode, and the bottom is portrait mode. So you can see what happens in portrait mode is it blurs out the background. So if you want to bring attention and focus to a small detail, and weddings have great little details, so that's why I picked this for this one. Or one or two people. If you have a group shot, you do not want to do a portrait mode. But if you have one, maybe two people, and you want to really have them stars of the show and focal on them, then portrait mode is the way to go. So I encourage you to try it this week and play with it. So when we're talking about taking photos at weddings, and this subject is kind of controversial because there are brides who would never want you to take any photos at all, and there's brides who want a lot because they want extra photos. But I encourage you to not take the photos that the professional photographer is going to take. Don't try to take the photos of them during the ceremony. Don't take the photos of the first dance. All these photos are photos that the professional are going to get, and you should be able to get some of those later. Instead, think about being present and enjoying the moment. I talk about that a lot. And then think about getting the shots that the professional's not going to get. So here are some examples. One, the first is my husband being goofy at the wedding, like he's landing an airplane with the little streamers. So the professional was not looking at him, of course, because he was looking at the bride and groom coming out. So this was a great time. Then take the shot. The last one is my daughter dancing at a wedding. And again, not anything against the professional, but that is not the professionals, is not your place in the wedding. So really think about what your place in the wedding is and take those shots because really it's like how you fit in the wedding is more important. And then that third shot is I try to get the photo of with or if at all possible with the bride and groom. So think about those things for your next wedding. Okay, I want to stress this very importantly before we get started on organization, which will be next. And this is if you have slides or VHS tapes of weddings, of old weddings, please, please, please get those digitized as soon as possible because I've been doing a lot of slides lately, and a lot of them are having a lot of damage on them. They're getting to the age where they have fungus or mold on them, and so there's a lot of slides with damage, and also VHS tapes. A lot of people have weddings on VHS tapes, and those are deteriorating. So I just want to encourage you, like that would be my first. If you had to do one thing first, go ahead and digitize those things and do that. The second thing I would do, like today, is to just capture the story. Don't worry about organizing it. Don't worry about it being perfect. Just take your phone and hit record and ask your parents or grandparents about their story. I'm going to give you some questions to get you thinking, but I just really want to encourage you to get it down before it's too late. And that makes the process a lot easier. So I want to show you a template of organization. So everybody's story is different. Everybody's account's gonna look different. But this is a really good jumping point. I'm going to give you a handout afterwards. If you want it, just let me know that has lots of questions and things that you include in each one, and it shows each one of these. But this is just a place to get you thinking it started. And I want to encourage you to start at the beginning. And I'm not talking about the pre-planning of the wedding. I'm not talking about the proposal. I'm talking about the very beginning because I believe it's so crucial if you're telling your love story, if you're telling about your wedding, is to please start at the beginning. And so for the beginning is how you met in your early relationship and just spend some time there in really documenting and preserving that. And I'm going to share some ideas for that for you. The second is proposal. The next one is your planning. And then it's all those pre-parties, if you had showers or all those kind of things. The big day, which is the wedding day. Then the honeymoon. And then uh, your anniversaries. So that's kind of the top level structure. And I'll show you, mine's different. So I got married last year. And so all of those like how we met, my proposal, and all that is in here, but it is in this story right at the top under the description, right? And then this album is mostly just the wedding, and then I've added anniversaries. My honeymoon right now is under my travel, but I'll probably add some pictures in here of that at some time. But this is how mine look. And you can see this is the top level. And down here under the ceremony, I broke the ceremony in to more nested albums. And I don't print a lot of albums, but I do print wedding albums, and I did print this one. And I will tell you, the more you break down into smaller point parts, it's so much easier to make your albums because then you have them down into like you know that this little album is going to be a 2 to 4 page spread for each album, and it just makes the flow of the album easier to do. So I really encourage you to break down each little section of your ceremony, of the shower should be separate. Everything's separate. The more separate it is, the easier it is going to be to make a wedding album. So I talked about the start at the beginning. So here are some questions, where did you meet? what was the first thing you noticed about the person. And I really love if you can get both the bride and the groom to do this, it's even better. And so you might get some different perspectives and different stories, and I think that makes it even better. So, if you can interview, if you're doing somebody else's, you can interview them and interview them separately or together, and just see, tell about the first date. So I've done this for people, and let's just say it wasn't even somebody was getting married a couple years ago, and they didn't have any pictures of their first date. Well, what I did is I went the first time either their date or when they met was at Panera Bread. And so I just went and got the logo of Panera Bread, and then I just told the story connected to that file about them meeting at Panera Bread. So just think about, you might not have a photo of some of these stories, but you can think of something that would represent that, or you can go back and actually get a picture of the place that your first date was, or maybe a place that you went a lot, or maybe you watched a movie and you can go back and get a picture of a movie poster offline. So those are just a few ideas. Some more for the beginnings. Do you have a song? Then you could put the song in, add the song to it. Do you have any funny or amusing dates that were in there? Photos could be places you met, the location of your first date, the favorite restaurant or activity you enjoyed together. So, all of those things. I'd love to add videos. Videos of "I love you." Maybe the first time you said "I love you" can sometimes be a really interesting story. Maybe "I love this," overcoming a challenge that you may have had, and possibly your a video of your favorite song. So I'm going to have a list of things after I have a list handout that you can have of each of those top levels and these kind of questions and things to just get you thinking. You're not going to answer every single one of these, and that's not what's important. It's just to start thinking about what you may want to include with yours. Okay, so if you're doing a family member and you're going back and maybe you have very few photos or no photos of the wedding, so the best place I think to start is to try to find the marriage license. And that may sound boring, but it's not. So the best place is Family Search, and you can go there, search their records. And they have so much. That's the place I would start. If you can't find that, then you could go to if you know the county they were married in, you can go there. But a lot of files are already in Family Search. So that's where I would go first. And I love this story. So the bottom here, this is the top is Family Search, what it looks like. The bottom here is a friend, Cindy, who I think this is her grandparents, if I remember right. And this is Jack and Evelyn. And it's really, she found hers at the courthouse. And she found, this is really, like, normally you can at least find, where they were married, who witnessed it, who was the officiant. All those things are really fun. But she found something really cool. Typed on here is Evelyn was underage. So the judge called the mother to make sure there was permission for her to get married. And there's a notation of all that on there. And she had heard this kind of story in the family, but really didn't know much until she found this document that really verified that this all did happen. So that's a really cool thing. So the second thing, so I went with I didn't know much. The only thing is I had asked my grandmother one time about her dating my grandfather, and I had one little interesting, funny story about that, but that's it. That's all I had about my grandparents. So, and I did have their marriage license. So I went on to newspapers.com, and you can see I just put their names and the year I knew they were married and the state, so it would narrow it down because you don't want to be looking at everything. And this popped up, which I was so excited about. It says of unusual interest, which I don't know why their marriage was of unusual interest. But in here, I found out one that my grandmother had worked at a grocery store, the Cameron grocery store, which nobody had ever told me. My dad had not. Once I asked my dad, he said yes, that was true, but he had never told me. I never knew that she was in charge of the young people's uh, Sunday school class at the church, and they both graduated from high school, which at that time I think is pretty impressive. So from this one little article, I had several facts that I didn't know. And so what that led to is I asked somebody if they had a picture of the church, an old picture of the church. And so that's the church. Somebody found that one. It's not exactly the time period, but it's in the 40s or 50s. So we can guess that it's probably close to that time. And then I went and found, and I will show you that next. I found this picture of the school that they both graduated from. So, so this little article led to that. So this picture I got from this book, and I'm going to tell you, if you have family that's lived in the same community for a long time, and they have one of these books, I highly recommend you get it because it's so good to add context to your stories and to your research and all that. And so this is the publishing company, so you can look and kind of go and look and see if they have one from your community. And then some of them actually are Kindle free. Then I go into Amazon and see if they have it. And this one I've had for a while, and it is on Kindle. And the reason I say is to get it on Kindle is then you can download it, and then I just snip. Use the snipping tool. If you don't know, then you can just put snipping tool into your search and you can find it. And you can see right here, I just snipped the school. I found the school in this book and I snipped it, saved it, and uploaded it to my account. So the Kindle to me is better because it's easier to get those photos. If you need to buy a copy, because not all of them are Kindle, then you're going to have to get the copy and then take a photo or either scan it or use photo scan to scan the picture. But this is a great resources, and their Images of America is a really good, that's the search word to find these come up. So after I did that, I decided, okay, went back to newspaper.com. And what I did is I put their names in, but I put it for like 3 years before they were married. Both of their names, just to see if anything would come up. And I can't believe it. Now, this is lucky. This is not going to always come up. I'm just really blessed that this came up. I found 4 articles and that it has them listed at being the same places. So one was, I love a corn shucking, one was at a person's house, and one was at this Sunday school ice cream social. So that was even more information that I did not have before. So that was really cool. So then what did I do is I took those 4 articles in the information I had, I typed a little bit summarizing and asked chat to come up with their love story. And so that's what I copied and pasted. I had to change a few things, and then I copied and pasted and put it in the description. So that top left is what ChatGPT came up with. And then the top down bottom here is what I have. So what I have for their love story is I have a few pictures. These are probably after they're married. But I have those first, and then I actually have a picture I found in that Images of America of Broadway where she worked about that time, probably a little bit before. But I have a picture of Broadway. I have a picture of the school that they both graduated from. Then I have a copy of all of those articles. I downloaded them and uploaded them to account. Then I have the marriage license. I have a picture of the church, and then a picture of them later on in life. So that is how I finished their love story, and this is all I have for it. Okay, so that one's complete. So the next one I'm going to show you this is part of my mom and dad. So this is how they met, and they met in high school. Even though they're still living, it was hard to get some information out of them. So I'm gonna share some about that. But I want to show you one thing. It's poor. This is the sort by. So if you comes up, it's gonna look like this one on the right, where under how we met. You see where this filters is? So you would click on that, and then to the left is going to come up with a whole bunch of things, and part of it's sort by. And why is this important with the love stories? Because I'm grabbing things from lots of different sources, and even though I changed the date, it's good. Dates are a lot of times fuzzy dates, and it's never going to be in the order I want. So how do I fix that? Okay, because you can see, I will show you in a minute. The next slide, I'll show you their wedding, but it's not going to be in the order I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here. Usually I would do oldest and that would work, but this is not going to work. So you could do number them so they're in the right number, but I highly recommend that you go edit, custom order, and this is what pops up. So you can see at the bottom, see how this is, and then it's really easy. You just take your cursor and you slide them to the order you want. And so this is a pretty important one to use when you're doing love stories, especially if you're doing older ones with older documentation. And I want you to notice this. I'm going to share this in a minute. This is a yearbook entry that's in my mom's, and I'll share that in a second, more about that. So as you can see, this is my parents this was under ceremony. And at the top, you can see this is, if I did oldest to newest, this is how it came up. And I really didn't like that. So I custom ordered, and you can see I put the three of them going into the church, the three pictures and then going on the church. These three are about the same picture. I'll probably delete two of them, but I just haven't yet. Then I just put the church decorated, the ceremony after the church, the receiving line, them coming out the door, and them in the car. And then I put the different newspaper articles in their marriage license. So you can see how much that flows better in order, right? So that's how I did that, is with custom order. So that, back to that yearbook. So yearbooks, if you're going back and trying to piece things together, I highly recommend, especially if you actually have a family members, is to go back and read through the yearbooks. So this is one of my most prized finds ever. This is a letter from my dad when they were dating to my mom in high school, and that is the most I've ever seen him write. And so, and in here, if you read it, it says all these nice things. And your feet don't stink and you love Jesus. I just love that line. That's like one of my favorite lines. And so I love that. And so I scan this and I scan the cover for context and put that in their story. Now, if you don't, so it's better if you actually have it, because you might find things like this, but it could be you just want, they were high school sweethearts and you just want pictures from that time frame and you don't have them. Well, if that's the case, there's two resources. There are costs involved, but you can see if they actually have the yearbook you need without paying. And one is called eyearbook.com, and one's Classmates. A free source that before you do that, and if you live near, is go to the library of where they went, and the libraries often have a yearbook. You could also see if the yearbook of the school library actually has it. So two great sources. You might can find them for free. So let's move along to the opposite problem. And that is weddings today. And sometimes having more is actually harder. And these pictures are from the most beautiful wedding to date that I probably have worked on. And it was in Greece. And it was absolutely gorgeous wedding. And you can know why. They must have had at least two photographers, maybe more. And they had, I think it was close to 16 or 1800 photos. So that is a lot of photos. And I just, we do not need all those photos, right? And so you can see the first set is just of the chairs. I need one of those, right? So I need to delete the rest. And some people, that horrifies them. But really, that's what, of these sets, I need to like find my favorite, pick one, and clean out the rest. And because otherwise it may not be taking up space in the closet, like our printed photos do, but it does take up space. It takes space on your computer or in the cloud, and it definitely takes up space from really seeing what's important. So, just because digital photos don't fill your closet doesn't mean they don't take up space. Think of your photo library like a garden. If you never pull the weeds, the flowers get lost. Curating isn't about throwing memories away, it's about clearing the clutter so that real love story shines through. Don't make your family sift through thousands of nearly identical photos to find the treasures. So I want you to think about that every time and just clear out the clutter to get to the heart of the story. Another little tip for if you're doing photos more recently, I encourage you. Forever has facial recognition, and you can see, like, we think that we're going to remember everybody in your wedding, and I want to tell you that you won't. And use so just even if you think, oh, I'll never forget the names of these people, believe me, and even if you don't forget, because you probably will, but your great grandchildren weren't going to know who they are, right? So make sure everybody in the wedding party, as many guests as possible, are labeled in facial recognition, makes it so much easier. So you can see to the right here where I've marked out the names just for privacy, but you can see the person's face and then it'll have the name under it. And this was her wedding party. And now she probably would not forget these names, but maybe the other side of the family doesn't know my dad's name, or maybe somebody in my side of the family doesn't know her sister's names. So it's always great. Just do it. Just do the details. Another detail is to capture the little things that tell the bigger story. So here's an example. I came up with this for my wedding, and there was total of four people at my wedding, myself, my husband, and my two children. And I found this and I loved it. This is glass, and we poured it into, you can see this is after, on the left you can see it was after poured in it. So it was kind of like the sand, but it was glass. And then we made ornaments and pendants and different things with it. So, and unfortunately, at the wedding, we didn't get a really good picture of the glass separated. And this was, it was pretty important for me, and I wanted it. So I wrote the company, and they sent me the glass again separated because you could see I couldn't do after it was put together. And I just took a picture because I wanted that picture. So it wasn't at the ceremony, but at least I have now what it looked like, and it tells the story of the glass and the four different colors and putting them together. So the last one I want to share with you is this one. This was a wedding I went to also last year, and it's one thing that I loved. I'm seeing it more and more now. And so you got an envelope that said what table you were at. And inside that envelope was this card, and it was a personally written card to each person about why they were invited. It was a fairly small wedding, and the bride had handwritten why they were invited. And I absolutely think it was one of my favorite things from a wedding. And I want to say, don't just put the photos, but put the who, what, where, and why. And so when you put in pictures of who you picked, at the very least, the people who were in the wedding, why? Why did you ask the bridesmaids and the groomsmen? Why did you ask somebody to read that verse at your, why did you have so and so? So have the why and include that in there. And even when if you have a smaller wedding, and you could put in there why you invited each guest. What a treasure that would be, to add a note about the relationship or traditions or whatever to that. A single sentence can turn a picture into a legacy story. So that's all. Next one we're going to have is Sacred Stories. I hope to see you then and have a great night.